Obviously, collage has, I suppose, to be the outcome of a set of conscious procedures to an extent. Ernst himself got around this by explaining that some of the collages, which aren't literally collages in some cases, which are engravings or photographs, which he's altered by the addition of a spot of paint or a line here and there, that he explained that some of them he arrived at these deformations or alterations by flicking very fast through the pages of a catalogue or of a geology textbook or a biology textbook, and that he would find by doing this conjunctions of things that were totally irrational, but which in some sense hooked him, that he was fascinated by these conjunctions. Now, Ernst's collages date from 1919, 1920, 21, the first set of collages, which were then exhibited in Paris in 1921. And they had a very profound effect on the surrealists. They had a profound effect on the future surrealists, who recognized in them, I think, an equivalent to a poetic procedure, which the surrealists always, in a sense, acknowledged in the work of l'autrement, which was the bringing together of two or more dissimilar realities on a plane which was foreign to all of them, and providing from this a spark. And in a sense, this spark was, Breton used this sort of electrical image, but this spark was what he saw as, what he described as the surrealist light. I mean, something which would actually illuminate, but disorient the viewer. I mean, illuminate the world through disorientation. I'm not saying necessarily that Ernst was familiar at this point with l'autrement, but that this notion of bringing together unlikely things was at the heart of his concept of collage as well. I think crucial to these collages is the notion of disorientation, that you may have a landscape, for example, but the landscape contains elements that must be foreign to it, and it contains objects within that which are foreign to the landscape and to each other. And so you have a world, if you like, an image which could only exist as a consequence of an imaginative reordering of the world. Now, this imaginative reordering was something that Breton felt could only occur through unconscious procedures. Others have argued that it could be done consciously, but for Breton, this was something that could only be done, in a sense, without your realizing it was being done. If you knew it was being done, it was cliché. And he uses it, he says at one point, you know, the first poet who said lips of coral was a surrealist, and the second one was a hack.
Europe After the Rain was made using a production process which Ernst had termed decalcomania.
The technique of decalcomania is a typical technique in terms of it being semi-automatic. It's done by putting glass or a sheet of paper onto the surface and pulling it away. So you get this sticky kind of surface. And then, though, one thinks that's all there is to it. Surrealism, automatism is always a cheat. Then Ernst comes and turns that sticky texture into a geological map full of monsters and fossils. Another lovely thing about decalcomania is not just the way it's painted, but the way that one has to look into it to see oneself, whether there's a painted face in the rock or whether one is imagining the face in the rock. And so there's always this rather creepy sense of potential monsters in it, as well as those which, in time-honoured German tradition, Ernst carefully painted.
It's in these techniques, then, as well as in his imagery, that Ernst sought to generate material which would bear on both social and psychological reality. Revolution, for the surrealists, was always understood as involving a synthesis of these two realities, the outer and the inner worlds, as Ernst put it.
The word révolution for them meant two very distinct things. It meant the Marxist revolution, and in particular the Soviet revolution in Russia, with all that that entailed, i.e. complete restructuring of society, the revolution of the proletariat, the abolition of capitalism, on the one hand. On the other hand, it meant the revolution in personal behavior and understanding of human beings as posited by Freud.
It was very much a group to which you had to be admitted. It wasn't something you would just choose to join if you felt like it. It was a kind of collective, but it was a collective with a lot of exclusive membership, which definitely thought of itself as being a group who were committed on every level to the revolution, social level and at the artistic level. But they had no illusions about themselves as active politicians. They could be militant on the fringes, if you like. They were very good at producing pamphlets attacking Catholicism. There were certain areas they felt were areas on which they had the right to speak, and that was certainly one of them. They attacked the Catholic Church. But they didn't pretend that they were well endowed to enter Parliament, for example. I think they saw themselves as being able to, carry on the fight in certain ways.
I was born with a very strong feeling of need of freedom, liberty. Mm-hmm. And that means also with a very strong feeling of revolt. Mm. Revolt and revolution is not the same thing. But when you have this very strong feeling of this need of revolt, need of freedom, and you are born into a period where so many events invite you to get revolted and throw over what is going on in the world and be disgusted with it and so on. It is absolutely natural that the work you produce is a revolutionary work. Yes. So there is again the inner world and the outer world work together to make out of me a revolutionary painter.